Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of The Green Factor, a show where we talk about green design and the business of sustainability. I'm your host, Haris the Green Carpenter, and today is our Green Factor Unplugged show. With me today, we have Najmia from Unplug. Hi, Mia.
Hi, nice to see you
So,
again.
yeah, after months, yeah.
Yeah,
So today we'll be going to talk about, to a company, the Kualesa, right? But before we talk to them, why don't you just share a bit of what Unplug is and also the sustainability metrics that you guys look into?
sure. So, Unplug is a eco-conscious retail platform where we kind of want to bring sustainable value to the forefront of retail, which is a gap in the market now. And so, we host over 50 brands from Malaysia and around the world, and we curate around 8 eco metrics, which are values that mean a lot to us. And those metrics are environmental friendly materials, environmental friendly packaging, sustainable procurement, local made, preserving traditional skills and craft, zero waste innovation, and fair trade and social impact. So bringing along different brands together, we kind of want to showcase how each brand is able to spotlight and champion each of those metrics. So today we have Kualesa on board, and I think they are doing quite well in terms of sustainable procurement. And so we're excited to hear their story.
Hi everyone.
Hi everyone.
Hi guys. So we have Ariff and Haris from Kualesa. So they have been just a new story lah to our audience. We all four of us have been featured in what is it? Is it Tatler? Something?
Tadler.
Tatler. So like I've known about Kualesa for some time. I think before that I meet guys in I think Rio and a few other event as well. So I find your story quite interesting in a way that we can learn something from what you guys do. So I think before we go into the issue today, which is sustainable fashion, why don't you guys, for the benefit of our viewers and listeners, share a little bit of your journey and what you guys are doing?
Sure. So maybe just a bit of an intro. Hi everyone, I'm Ariff and I'm acting founder and CEO of Kualesa. And Haris is my co-founder as well as our company's COO. Maybe just to tell you all about maybe first of all Haris and myself, our life journeys a bit, and maybe Haris can chime in on himself. But so both Haris and I were born and bred in Malaysia, but we actually both are trained engineers. We studied engineering. Actually, both of us went to the UK to study. I went into more the corporate side of I guess the workforce, and I did management consulting straight out of university. And then last year basically took the plunge into entrepreneurship. Haris and I have actually been best friends for a long time. So I fortunately convinced him to start this with me early last year. So for first quarter of last year, and we've been on this journey ever since. Maybe Haris, do you want to say a couple of words on yourself, and then maybe I can say some words on Kualesa?
Yeah, sure. So as Arif mentioned, I did engineering as well, but specifically in environmental engineering, because early on I developed an interest in finding ways to combat climate change through the use of technological advances such as renewable energy. But having graduated, unfortunately, coming back to Malaysia, there weren't too many opportunities in that industry, in the green energy industry. So I actually found myself gaining some experience in consulting and eventually e-commerce as well with Shopee, where I basically built and manage an online store. So in summary, all of the experiences from my past, experiences from different industries, coupled with my passion in sustainability and fashion, it made perfect sense for me to jump on the opportunity. Yeah.
Haris did take some time to give me an answer, so I'll
Yeah.
just add to the
month or two.
audience. It was an immediate.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe I'll talk about Kualesa for a little bit. We're a direct to consumer brand, eco-conscious direct to consumer brand, and we produce apparel that's or promote apparel that's using basically better for the planet textiles. So we've debuted with bamboo lyocell as our first kind of eco-conscious fabric to promote, but we definitely want to explore more. We're in terms of what categories we're in, we're really in t-shirts and polos to start with, and yeah, we want to expand into more kinds of apparel or different subcategories. But for us, we believe in the brand as having three pillars. So the first is comfort, second is design, and the third is sustainability or being eco-conscious. So for us, we think that the how we differentiate in the marketplace is that we offer three to our customers, and typically most apparel brands out there in the world focus on one or two of those things, but we think that the three is the full package, and what we yeah are trying to promote with our products. So for us, we very much don't believe in the trade-off between comfort, design, and sustainability, and you can have them all together. And we try to do that with our products and our online store, which is the most of our focus, I guess, in terms of for business generally.
Awesome. So we have a comment here from Naja. He said, fashion sustainability have been on my radar for quite some time. One of the reasons why I started sewing and altering clothes. It's not a question, but it's a statement. Yeah, and I think like as more and more people look into sustainability in different area, I think fashion has a bad rap of being one of the most unsustainable industry. So I wanted to ask you a question in terms of the issue of unsustainable practices in the fashion industry. If you can touch a little bit on that.
Sure. Why don't I start, and Haris, maybe you can jump in whenever. For us, the main problem in the fashion industry today is I guess three things. But the first thing is just general carbon emissions. It's actually responsible for 10% of total global carbon emissions, which is close to things like the aviation industry and the like. So I think thinking about carbon emissions as just from kind of cars, planes, and all that, it's definitely not the full picture. So that's the first problem. But the second, I think, biggest problem is the abundance of synthetic fibers. So synthetic fibers take up to 65% of all fiber in clothing globally. 55% is a majority of that is actually polyester, which is in a lot of different clothes. So the main problem of synthetic fibers is that it takes 200 years to decompose. It means landfills are overflowing with them, and it generally is quite bad for the environment. But the second issue with synthetic fibers is that there are microplastics that actually seep out if you say you wash your polyester garment in a washing machine at home. Microplastics actually seep out from that every single wash and go straight into oceans, and causes damage to the oceans, ocean wildlife, and yeah, what is, I guess, quite something that's under the radar, that 35% of all microplastics in oceans actually come from textiles. So not just your plastic bottles, plastic bottle caps, and plastic bags. So that's I think that the two biggest problems that the fashion industry has today, and we try to tackle that with bringing more organic fibers that are biodegradable, don't take 200 years to decompose, and don't have microplastics going out of them. Yeah.
Haris, do you have any
Yeah,
input you want to add?
I guess as Ariff mentioned, synthetic fibers take about 200 years to decompose, but in comparison, sustainable material like bamboo fabric would perhaps take 1 to 2 years to decompose in a landfill, provided it's in the right conditions. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, and then just to throw in a fun fact is, no, well, not quite a fun fact, but Malaysia actually in itself produces about 2 million kgs worth of textile waste each day, which I think is quite a very, very significant amount. So
Is it just local? There is local waste, or because I heard we also import a lot of plastic waste and all that to our country. Is it the same for fabric as well?
mm,
I think on that there's a lot of importing of clothing generally, and I think
Like bundle and second-hand store, those kind of things as well, right?
yeah, we have a lot of those stores as well. They import
yeah.
from all over the world.
But I think a lot of it, and if there is a name to blame, it would be fast fashion generally. I think because
Mm,
they do bring in a lot of clothes from other countries. I think locally or regionally, the textile industry in Vietnam, or even shipping from places like India and Bangladesh, the those fibers or those garments come into Malaysia, but the usage of them is very fast. So there are a lot of people who just wear for one time, two times, and then they just disregard them. Not necessarily properly, and not putting them back into the system, but just throwing them in the sampah basically, and then it gets into the landfill. So I think that's also a behavioral problem that we have in Malaysia today.
Yeah, I think because you guys also have experience in the fashion industry. So, what are your thoughts and all that? And then we can go for the question. Just want to know your personal thoughts, lah.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything that they have said, and I think the idea of like fast fashion and being so rapid, you want it's affordable one, so it's not much to think about when you want to invest. You want a new look, it's affordable, and then you dispose it. But I think that also takes away from investing in quality, something that lasts. It's just the mindset needs to change, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Totally agree. And I think maybe just to add a bit more color there, I think what has happened in the region is there's a lot of, I guess, markdown culture within the big platforms, or generally speaking, and I think there are certain players, for example, like Sheen, who end up kind of just really marking down all of their products so that they're even cheaper, so that it's even you can really they don't consumers don't have to think twice about buying it, which actually
Yeah.
is a bit dangerous for the environment. And it's
Yeah.
yeah, generally I think there's a lot of promotions, monthly
Yeah.
promotions, and I don't think that's great for us as a brand as well, on just pricing generally, but that also plays a part,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, from what I've seen with like Shopee as well, right? That people are so used to, to expect like sales coming every few weeks. So yeah,
Yeah, I think it just takes away the conversation of consideration from a consumer to really think about what they want to invest in, because it's like, oh, well, that's a nice design and it's cheap. Why not? Right? Or when's the next sales? This is like a common problem that we have with a lot of customers that come in and might compare the products to what is in stores, in common stores. They would question the cost, but I think it comes at such a cost, fast fashion.
Mm,
That's right. We like to say that we can't afford fast fashion.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
true.
and that messaging.
It's ironic, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, Mia, I think we go into a bit more technical now. So, the floor is yours.
Okay, cool. Okay, so you guys, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Do you guys have any fashion design background? Or is this just a passion on your end?
yeah,
No,
more
no, no,
passion.
no, no, no fashion
That's
background.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's really, really interesting. So like share with us your journey into starting a fashion label without the background, and what has been some of the challenges in that.
Okay.
How
Yeah,
is
I'll
you,
take this
Ethan?
one. Yeah. So I would say it was overwhelming to start off with. Of course, we had the support of our head of production and design, but personally, for myself, like completely new in textiles, a lot of new terms, terminologies we had to like familiarize ourselves with. For example, in terms of dimensions as well of the clothing, we took inspiration from like certain brands, but of course, we also made it our own. to make sure that we have the perfect fit or close to perfect. So that meant that we had to go through several rounds of sampling. I think it was to start off with for our first purchase order was like 3 or 4 different rounds of sampling. One thing I can recall is one issue we faced with like our polos basically under where the armpit area is was a bit tight, so we had to like sort of look in how the dimensions could be improved, and we didn't realize like some of them are actually interrelated. So for example, if you were to increase the size of your armhole, the length of the undersleeve would decrease naturally. So there's a lot of technicalities that we had to learn from scratch. And yeah, I mean, I guess we've come a long way, and we've learned a lot. But in
Yeah,
terms
that's
of like, sorry.
like what's the period? What was the period in terms of like brainstorming to going live and launching your brand? What was the
Um,
duration of that?
I would say, I guess Ariff started tinkering on the idea around November, and then I guess early 2021 we started looking more into the designs, the dimensions, etc. And I would say several months, like 2-3 months of sampling, I would say. Yeah, because each time the samples would take like a week or two to be made, and then they ship it over to Malaysia, and then quite a lot of back and forth. Yeah,
Yeah.
but one
And what
more
was it
thing I want.
like? Yeah.
Sorry,
Sorry, go
one more
ahead.
thing to add in terms of like the design itself. Actually, I guess this was also, and not so much me to start off with, but more on Ariff's side. Basically, he wanted to like elevate the creativity and artisanal nature of batik craftsmanships in our designs. So because I guess we generally don't appreciate batik as an art. We don't appreciate give it enough credit. So we felt like giving it a modern twist would be a good thing, something to do, and also solving for a few pain points such as like comfort and the loudness of a typical traditional batik shirt, where you wouldn't wear it yet casually. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love how on I think one of your blogs on your website, you guys
Mhm.
kind of touch upon the meanings and symbols behind each pattern. That's really cool.
Yeah. 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 There's
So I
a
wanted
story
to,
behind print every design.
yeah, that's really, really cool. So let's go into sustainable sourcing. How was it like trying to find and be responsible with your sourcing, and putting your supplies together?
Maybe I'll jump in here. I think it was definitely a journey in itself, and a big part of, in fact, like a big part of pre-launch to because we actually ended up doing the R&D with different manufacturers. So you can do sampling with different manufacturers, but going into production with one manufacturer is, I think, a separate thing altogether. So for us, and I think the main challenges at the start was, one, to find a partner that would work with us, who we don't necessarily come in with big order quantities, that typically they entertain larger companies that want to kind of do business with them. So coming in and saying, oh, can we buy 500 pieces to start with, it's sometimes they don't even give you the time of day.
Yeah.
So that's one challenge, I think. And generally, um sustainable fabrics, or more sustainable fabrics, they tend to be less abundant. So
Yeah.
which kind of means that they have to sometimes make it from scratch, which means even more MOQ. So it's kind of where you kind of up against these challenges. And I think you know just generally speaking, a very sustainable manufacturing partners, there are very few of them out there, few and far between, that from a I mean, sustainability is a spectrum, but having labor certifications, or sourcing in terms of raw material certifications. Like we had, I guess, a quite a strict list of things to look out for in terms of companies. Which, and with that list, you reduce the number of companies out there that can kind of go into the funnel.
Yeah.
So having a proper screening process, it took a lot of time. And I remember, uh, yeah, quite fondly, actually, there was one day where we were like, hey, every single person in the team, like, everyone look at companies and try to find a manufacturing partner that meets all the criteria. And we had this big Excel sheet with all the different names and all the different
Wow.
criteria. I
Yeah.
always put that together. So yeah,
It's
I think that
crazy.
was
Yeah.
the journey at the start. And yeah, I think one thing that was also difficult, it was all during COVID. So we were in MCO in KL. There were lockdowns at the time. We actually did sampling in India, and then they went into full lockdown, and it was really unfortunate, and we had to pivot everything. So it was all honestly not the easiest ride at the start. But what really helped was, I guess, being true to our mission to start with, and not kind of rush into things too fast. And yeah, I guess just going through the motions, and making sure that the manufacturing partner also had in the world, and sustainability in mind, and quality in mind, and shared our vision in the brand. So I think that was also important for us to do. When you're talking to new potential partners, make sure that they understand that vision, and then where you can go going forward.
Yeah. Are you guys working with just one manufacturer, or you've got like a few?
Right now, it is just the one. We've moved manufacturing partners recently. I think at our scale, we can't necessarily split it out or diversify just yet, but we'd love to.
Yeah. And in your research, did you find that there were more manufacturers or supply in certain countries than others? And how did you kind of navigate what would make sense for your business?
Yeah, I think that a lot of different countries were up on, I mean, as options. I think what we did was, again, kind of brought in the criteria that we set, and this is, I think, with this decision also, it's other business factors, like things like cost, things like timelines on delivering kind of the garments to us. But yeah, eventually we landed at one, and yeah, we're very happy with them. And they definitely see sustainability as strongly as we do. And I think maybe one thing to just generally add is, manufacturers out there, they understand that there is a movement towards more sustainable fabrics as well. So it's kind of in their business goals or objectives to be able to kind of offer their customers more sustainable options, I guess. So I guess more and more by the day, there'll be more sustainable.
Yeah. I mean, this is why we think it's so important for brands and designers, makers to start now with, towards a more sustainable journey, because you're also creating demand for suppliers and producers. I hit the same roadblock a few years ago in 2015 where the scale wasn't there. So again, in order to purchase, a roll of organic cotton, we were the only buyers. So imagine the volume we had to buy, the MOQ, and the price of that because the demand wasn't there. So it's definitely a big challenge.
Can I just ask a little bit in terms, since we're talking about sourcing, what is the situation with the local punya manufacturer or supplier?
Maybe I can add here. Maybe Haris can feel free to jump in. But so the factories or the facilities in Malaysia itself, at scale, I would say very much focus on, like, towards the end of the supply chain, where they are doing the stitching, and maybe doing the finishing of garments. There aren't that many kind of fabric mills which make fabric from the yarn itself. And there aren't actually a lot of dyeing or printing houses locally as well. So there definitely are garment factories out there, but they very much focus on the end of that process.
Yeah.
So they would have to actually buy fabric from abroad. And when that happens, it's actually a little bit more difficult because you separate it into two steps, the process or the value chain. And yeah, to us, definitely at the start, and I think it is definitely an option, but at the start, it's a little bit easier working with one person throughout, who can do the whole process.
Yeah, yeah. I've also noticed that like certain fabrics that are coming from Malaysia or nearby, like Indonesia, it's for export to the US or the Europe. So the price doesn't make sense for us. And because again, demand is not in Asia, it's not that available to us. So I hope that changes in the future. Yeah. Would you guys say, like, in terms of like looking at overall how your business operates and the cost implication, would you in terms of percentage, how much would you weigh on research and development, because there's so much work put in there?
Ariff, you want to take this one?
Yep. So I think it really depends on the size of the quantities in your POs, and the number of garments you produce, and a lot of considerations have to be taken into place, right? In terms of the different sizing for both men's and women's, the different designs as well. So, for example, like we work with solid colors, plain colors, but we also work with prints, and each of these have different costing, for example, and different MOQs in itself. Yeah. So typically, from what we've seen from our first round of sampling, typically it would be about 5 to 10% of our production costs. And so when it comes to the actual R&D process, typically when we do fit samples, this is basically correcting for like all the different dimensions. It would typically be about 2.5 times the cost of making a garment. And then that's the first fit sample phase. But then we also have another phase, sampling phase, which is what we call the PPS, is a pre-production sample, which is slightly cheaper. It's about only 1.5. It's 1.5 times the cost. But and this one typically would be a bit more, because we would essentially, what we bring into Malaysia would be for marketing. So we would the PPS samples that we bring in, we would bring in all different designs that we have. For example, for our first purchase order, we had 17 unique products. So so basically that's how much we had to pay for. Anything else to add on to that, Ariff?
Maybe just a little bit. I think for us overall, I think there's the R&D process of, I guess, our own designs and the sampling and the going back and forth of that. But there's also an R&D cost that is more towards, I guess, the science aspects of the garments, where it's doing color fastening tests or shrinkage tests, making sure that the garment doesn't kind of basically in terms of like ecotex, in terms of basically the structure and the durability of the garment. There's also all of that, which is kind of baked in and actually done by a manufacturing partner. So there's that in the process. But I think maybe also to add, for us as a brand, we also allocate a significant amount of R&D spend on exploring new fabrics. So we're actually already starting to look at things like bamboo linen. We'd love to work with pineapple fiber, and there you can actually make basic garments from pineapple fiber. So there's also the exploration R&D side as well, where we would purchase new fabrics or purchase new samples as well on that side.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. For just the sake of the viewers, bamboo, there's a lot of conversations around it. Like, it's not so sustainable because it's so heavy on chemicals usage in its process. So tell us a bit more about bamboo lyocell and how that could be a better option.
I'll take this one. Basically the main difference is that bamboo lyocell goes through a closed loop process, where essentially it uses a non-toxic solvent and water to break down the bamboo pulp, and the water basically goes through as I said, a closed loop process where it's recycled to be used for the next batch of producing bamboo fabric. Yeah.
And that means that there's less water usage as well, right? In the whole
Correct.
production of these. Yeah. Okay. It's very cool. Do you guys want to walk us down any certification that you guys are working with now?
Yep, I'll just list out some of the ones that we've been that's been shared with us. So basically, we have the Ecotech standard, as Ariff mentioned before, EcoCert, FSC, BSCI, and the ISO ones as well. So just to elaborate on the certifications, for Ecotech is basically rigorously testing for harmful substances. So for example, when the dyeing and printing happens in the factory, they're all Ecotech certified, which means that they process it using waterless dyeing, for example. And it works with, it means that in terms of the color fastness and shrinkage test that's carried out, it's a lot better. Number two is on FSC, strict compliance with responsible forest management. So this is when the bamboo trees are harvested. BSCI, adherence to strict fair label conditions. EcoCert is to do with basically certifying the appropriate use of organic fibers, in this case, bamboo pulp, in our manufacturing. So it's basically just ensuring that our products contain enough organic material. And finally, like the ISO ones, ISO 9001 basically means it's a high level of quality control in the process and production. And we've seen this with our manufacturer. Basically, before they ship it out to us, they work with a quality control company that goes through the products. And finally, ISO 14001, which is to do with environmental management systems. But I think moving forward, we are also looking to sort of achieve EcoCert labels, whether that be B Corp, Fair Trade, amongst others. Something we're exploring as well. But also one thing to add on is I think now that, in terms of like COVID restrictions, it's slowly slowing down. So I think we'll make a point to actually visit all the different manufacturing sites as well, the factories.
Yeah. Do you want to share a bit more on the BSCI? Because I've been seeing this, like most people are like, okay, how do we know that you're not just, buying from Alibaba, especially when it comes to like material purchases, or, like sometimes we carry a few silicone products at our shop, but they have their own production and it's like BSCI, and conversations would go, why would I pay higher when I can pay it for 5 ringgit on Alibaba or Shopee or whatnot? So I think it's a thing that we've been seeing now, but do you think it's equivalent to fair trade, for example, or what's the difference in terms of how they treat their labor, fair payment, good conditions of working conditions?
I mean, I think, to be honest, for us, we haven't really done the due D on the comparisons of both. I think BSCI I would say, I feel like it's a little bit more towards garment factories. So we've seen that a bit more towards I guess the textile industry overall. I think we were definitely kind of asking these questions to our manufacturer and everything. But I think what we also did was we actually, in our video calls and when we were conversing with our manufacturer was, hey, can you actually take us through the process, in the factory, send us some videos, send us some photos. So, everything seemed fine. Of course, the best thing is to go there in person, and we'll do that soon, hopefully sooner rather than later. Like Harry said, like we can actually fly there now. But yeah, I think, for us, we're looking into a little bit more in terms of like fair trade, BSCI, and the other fair labor certs. But yeah, I think it was quite a big win overall when we did start, and we found somebody that actually had even a fair labor certification, because you do really get without it, right?
No, I think this part, like in terms of having certain kinds of certifications, quite important, because you just never know. A lot of people are just claiming to be sustainable, eco-friendly, but then there's nothing to kind of show or, bridge that gap in terms of transparency.
For sure. And I think maybe for viewers or anybody who wants to get into the realm of sourcing from maybe textile manufacturers is really do ask for the actual certs, and like do the comparison. You can cross check these things and across the actual resources. Sometimes there is that greenwashing and just putting the sticker on the website, but when they do actually have the certs and they can prove it with their name for the cert, it's definitely a good process to go through.
Yeah, for sure. So Ariff, are you okay? I want to switch it up a bit and go more towards personal questions, their personal journey into stepping into their own business. So I wanted to ask you guys, like, was it scary for you guys to leave the comforts of your corporate life and do this together? it's hard, starting from scratch, especially if you don't have experience before. Do you guys have mentors, or who's guiding you, or you're just relying on each other?
Yeah, maybe
I
I can
think
start because I guess I was the first in the first one to take the leap out, I guess. And Harris can join.
yeah.
But I guess it was scary. And maybe to put into context, it was very much driven by kind of like a COVID soul searching, and I think a lot of people went through this process. Am I doing what I want to do in life? That type of kind of mentality. But it was, it was definitely risky, and of course, it was a jump out. But it was almost the pull of doing something that I would wake up, with more energy in that day. That I guess pulled me out. But no, I definitely was something. It was something new, something challenging, but also it was something that was I was very curious about, because I actually didn't have the that kind of experience. So it was always kind of straight out of university, going into kind of a stable salary paying job. You know, from a I guess more kind of uh, I guess tangible way. Like if even if I performed not as well that week or that month, it's not like my salary was going to change. It was only over the year that it was going to change. So it was definitely a big shift towards that kind of stability, towards something that's so like you may not even pay yourself anything for months and months and months, or you may not. The performance of the company can be up and down. Like it can be two times, three times up, and two times, three times down. That was very different. I knew that going in. But I guess I was a little bit naive as well at the same time, and I spent a lot of time planning, spent a lot of time on a financial model with all these assumptions, but there are all these unknowns that you can't really prepare for. And yeah, learned that, I guess, the hard way or the normal way. But yeah, that was my kind of journey going in. We're very happy with where I am today. Aris, how's it going for you?
So, honestly, I kind of like if yeah, I knew I would learn a lot from you, if I'm being quite frank. So in a way, you have been my mentor, and I knew that from the start, right? Is I knew I could like trust you, and also essentially learn a lot from you, right? But I basically personally view it as a way to accelerate my professional and personal growth as well. Through essentially experiencing a steep learning curve, and particularly in my field of interest, right? As I've mentioned, my passions in sustainability, fashion. So and also basically having to do the work, and networking as well. Instead of just learning and reading about it, I thought that, this is the perfect way to get stuck in and just do it, right? In the end of the day, is you're going to start somewhere. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's where
no,
myself.
like major kudos to you guys for taking such a huge risk and just starting. Most people don't even take the first step.
Yeah.
And with you
So
guys.
yeah,
Keep it
yeah,
up.
for sure. Like, no, I totally understand. Like,
Welcome to the
sometimes
club.
And so it's
sometimes you
about
need to
like,
wake up with a drive, right? Like when
yeah,
you're
yeah,
too comfortable, that drive just disappears, and you lose your path, really.
That's true.
I
yeah.
think
It's
the trade off
mm,
as well, from 9 to 5 to 24/7.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
But like in the end of the day, you're building something that I guess you're passionate about and you have control over. So I feel that's fulfilling. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
and I
think in a
also
way
think,
that is,
yeah,
yeah. Sorry, yeah, just a little bit. I think what works is reflected in what you do. It gives you a little bit of purpose. So that is
Mm,
something that it's quite difficult to get if you were working with in a corporate situation, right?
yeah, yeah.
yeah. I This is like a self reminder all the time, but like your biggest mistakes, or every mistake is the biggest learning curve for us. And I think that that's one of the most beneficial thing about this whole journey, is that you learn so much out of it in such a short
Mm,
period of time. So I suppose making more mistakes is it's better in a way. So you learn.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
exactly.
And I think, yeah, maybe just to add on to that is, I personally found is that business stress is so different to individual stress. It's you're make, and particularly when you're kind of the founders or the leaders in a company, it's you're thinking about people's livelihoods. It's the direction of the company. You're influencing that. You're driving that car or that ship. So it is a lot. It's very different to like, oh, okay, my own performance review for my own job. It's a lot more, and I think that also it drives you, but it also is a difficult thing to come over. I think or understand. I certainly went through a big learning on that one.
Yeah, for sure. Like from each of you guys, what is that one thing that you wish you knew earlier before stepping into this?
Well, why don't you go ahead, Haris, and then I'll add on. There's a
Okay.
long, there's a
I
long
think
list.
Like, okay, well, like for me, I can like start it off. Like for me was more of like when I started this, I didn't know how important a team was.
yeah.
And I thought, oh, it's just me and my sisters that are co-founders. We can do it. But no one really sat down with us and said, mentioned to us like the kind of a strong team is required, and especially a team that the skills complement one another. And there are certain areas like finances and marketing that's so core to this. I don't know. It was just a thing that was not in my head when I first started. So that's been one of my shit. I should have thought about that before.
Yeah, I think for me as just a quick one, and Haris can add is
Hmm.
you almost can't plan like because coming from my background and from consulting, we did a lot of analysis and we did a lot of Excel models and it was quite scientific in that sense. But when it comes down to it, like, and as a startup, generally speaking, like one of your main priorities is just to sell, and it's just to sell and grow top line, and that's how you're going to survive as a business. And I think at the start, even with the in our business, we had this abundance of data, right? We're on Shopify, we're using Facebook ads, and you get so much from that.
Mm-hmm.
But you tend to kind of overanalyze we got lost in the data at the start, to be honest, and metrics can kind of lead you feel like you're in this control panel room where there's so many different
Right.
buttons and you're a bit lost. But actually when it comes down to it, what I wish I knew at the start was just focus on selling, like however you're going to sell, whatever works, just sell
Yeah.
and sell more.
Yeah.
That was one thing, I guess.
I think touching on what you mentioned, Mia, in terms of the team itself, right? And I mean, I'm basically the acting HR, so I like we try to have pulse checks every couple of weeks to make sure everyone's doing well. So I know I
Mm-hmm.
strongly believe that to be we should individually strive to be a team player and also practice
Mm-hmm.
selflessness as well. So team players are those who respect, appreciate others, your peers' strengths and weaknesses at the same time, and it's all about adapting to how you can work together, and also appreciating them for like the unique qualities that they bring to the table. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's one thing that I think both of us have learned like throughout the journey.
That's very cool. So I guess we're down to our last question. What do you guys? Where do you guys wish to see Kualesa?
So maybe I'll go and then Harris can go. I wonder if we'll have different answers because that would be funny. But for me, I'd love to see us scale to a point where we have a huge impact, both on a carbon offsetting level, where it's whether it's number of trees or anything like that. But scaling does mean impact in terms of like I guess increasing the narrative or increasing the story or the visibility of you know why synthetic fibers are bad, and if we can see that in number of people that follow us or reach or number of orders and stuff like that. So I think from a we have big bold ambitions to go regional and global, so hopefully we can do that and grow. But I guess on a secondary note, just pushing the industry in terms of like we're one of the first dominoes and have a domino effect into others, whether that is, or maybe next year we'll see 10 eco-conscious brands that come out, and then in the following year it's like more, and I guess just being part of that that first dominoes, or the first dominoes to then move the industry towards being very, very widespread. Everybody has to be eco-conscious because we think it's a responsibility, not necessarily something that you choose to differentiate.
Sure.
So yeah, that would be me. Yeah. So big brand, and maybe it's portfolio of brands later on, and yeah, that's kind of my dream for it. But Haris,
Cool.
anything to add?
Yeah, I think it's just echoing what Arif has mentioned. Is basically trying to shift people's mindset, right? And I really believe that we can be a brand that will empower consumers to make sustainable product choices, and at the same time drive the apparel industry to use more sustainable and diverse textiles. To add on to that, I think in this day and age, in especially in this space, the sustainability space, I think as a whole we should work towards collaborating with others, just as you are doing now, right? We're having this conversation where we have discussions amongst local companies, local communities who champion sustainability. So I think this is a great platform where we can share ideas and solutions. Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, we're super proud to have you guys on board with Unplugged. So for those who don't know, you guys have been on for this first month, yeah? Just came in
Yeah.
this June. So do touch and feel, try on Kualesa apparel at Unplug in Bangsa Village.
And we're so
Awesome,
happy to be
awesome,
on board as well.
awesome. So you can also check our product there as well.
Yes, yes, sorry. Well,
No worries.
for sure. Dapo has been there for since the beginning.
Yeah, so thank you very much, Mia, for the arranging the meeting and finding good friends to work with. Ariff and Haris, thank you very much for sharing your journey. There are some questions from Sulaiman. Thank you, Sulaiman. He said, I know a lot of larger companies are looking to be more conscious and ESG focused, including in their corporate apparel. Would Kualesa be open to pushing the B2B agenda? Okay, since we are near at our show, so I am going to answer on their behalf, which they do. Yes, so they are moving towards B2B, and you can get more of those information on their website. Website or how's best to contact you B2B?
Yeah, through our website works. We actually have an email as well. We have a live chat on our website, which works as well. But also we have an email called info@kualesa.co. If you want a direct email, but if you prefer Instagram direct message, that works as well. Facebook direct message works as well. So in any kind of channel, feel free to get through to us, because it will kind of be passed on as a message.
Awesome. So we are at the end of the show. Do get in touch with all of the speakers, Mia, Ariff, and Haris, and be part of the conversation. I think what we need more in the industry or in Malaysia is conversation. There are a lot of issues in terms of sustainability. We have different industries with different issues, but we also have common problems which when we share, it solve other people's problem in other industry as well. So we need to have more of this conversation, and we have a community in Facebook called Green Design Malaysia, where we talk about green design and also implementation here in Malaysia. Because right now, when we talk about sustainability research online, there's a lot of example that is westernized or outside of Malaysia. But actually, in Malaysia itself, we have a lot of companies doing amazing things. And that is why the show is here to highlight this kind of companies and also direct the conversation towards that. So thank you very much for the guests, and thank you very much for the viewers. See you next week. Have a green week ahead. Bye bye, guys.
Thanks so much,
Bye.
Ryan, for having us. And yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you.